So good morning. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 8, the safe flow of foods. And so this video is going to be outlining all of the aspects of safe flow of food, and all the way from the vendor, from purchasing, to when the food gets to the guests in their hands and they're eating. And just we want to make sure that food stays safe the whole time so that there's no way of getting people sick, or we take every precaution that we can to avoid getting people sick. So the first process that we are going to talk about is purchasing. We have all experienced purchasing in one way or another. That can go from going to the food store like Walmart or Kroger's or Aldi's to going to a local vendor like a farm or farmer's market. All of those people who sell food to you have to have some sort of certification and approval so that you know that you're buying it from a very reliable source. Now, oftentimes you do see people on the side of the road who wants to sell, like ramp season is huge, or there's also some fruit vendors or vegetable vendors just from people who are selling vegetables from their own garden. And if you know those people, great, but a lot of the times you want to be weary of those people because you don't know exactly what their practices are. So you got to think about the farmers and what their practices are. Farmers have their specific ingredients that they sell, right? Where they produce milk. The meat vendors, so you have chicken, pork, beef, and all those people have to be practicing good sources. So they have to have good feeding, or they have to use good fertilizer. They have to use, proper techniques. You don't want them to be using water that's contaminated to water their garden, water their vegetables and fruits, or even giving bad feeds to your meat products. This can essentially affect us. Those who practice organic are held to a higher standard so that they use only specific fertilizers or specific feeds that guarantees that those ingredients that are going to come to your plate are going to be of good source and good quality. So a lot of the times when we're purchasing, we just want to make sure that we are using reliable sources. Here at the school, we use companies like GFS or Gordon Food Service, and we also do buy some ingredients from Kroger and some ingredients from Sam's Club. If you are physically going to the stores to buy food as part of the purchasing process, you also have to be aware of checking for the quality, and that kind of goes into receiving as well. So the next part is receiving. So in this situation, we want to make sure that we are looking for quality, okay? Quality is huge. What is quality? Well, would you eat it? That's the number one question you should be asking yourself. Would you eat that food if you see it? There is a good apple, and then there's some rotting apples all in the same bin. Would you buy the rotting apple? Probably not. You would buy the good one. So those are the properties that we look for as far as quality goes. We want to make sure that they look good, they smell good, and essentially those things help us to determine that they are going to taste good in the very end. Okay. Also, part of the receiving process, checking for quality is huge, and that could be in 3 different categories. So the first one is temperature, okay? Especially if you're receiving these items in a truck or somebody else is bringing you the food. We want to make sure that time temperature abuse has not happened. And we've learned already what time temperature abuse means, which is when an item is not stored properly in the correct temperature that it's supposed to be held at. So it's being abused. Meaning the quality of the product isn't going bad. Okay, so always check hot food hot, cold food cold. Okay, and we've already learned in the previous chapters what those temperatures should be. It should be outside of the TDZ, or temperature danger zone. So hot food, hot, should be anything above, we should be receiving it at above 135 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. And if we're receiving cold food, it should be anywhere between 41 degrees or lower, okay? There are a couple exceptions, and I'll get to that at the end, but we want to make sure that those items stay out of the temperature danger zone, which falls in between right here, okay? As far as the other part of the temperature is, how do we check it? Well, depending on what your food looks like. So if it's in a container, like this, let's just say yogurt, okay? We've all bought yogurt before in a container, right? So you get a container like this, yogurt, yay, yummy. But it's a hot food or cold food. Well, it comes in cold, it comes refrigerated. So we wanna make sure that we get our thermometer and stick it inside, right in the center, where the dimple of the thermometer reads the temperature, and it's going to read anywhere below 41 degrees. Okay, so that's one way to do it. If you have, for example, ground beef, and it is in a tubular package or something that you don't want to open just yet, well, sometimes they come in logs, okay? And so if you have multiple of these, then we can get 2 logs, and then you're just gonna stick your thermometer right in between the 2 right here, and then read it that way. And then that way you can tell that the package itself in whole is close to the temperature. If you have other meat products that you don't mind puncturing, for example, a chicken breast or a steak, just depending on what you're getting, then if you have a chicken breast right here, excuse my drawing, you're just going to stick your thermometer, and just like if you were checking the temperature for a regular cooking time. Another part of the quality check that we want to do when we are receiving items is the packaging. Okay. We've already determined that a lot of the packaging has to be intact, right? So if you have a box of vegetables, box is either damaged, like over here, it's crushed at the bottom, okay? And then you've got water stains over here, okay? You can probably guess that this box and the tomatoes inside of it was probably abused in some way. Accidental or on purpose, it does not matter the reason, but the fact is that it was damaged. So, damage of the tomatoes can affect the quality of your ingredients. So when you open that box lid, you look inside, you probably have a couple of tomatoes on this corner that's probably squashed, and then you've got a couple over here that's been water damage or starting to rot because it was in water. And here's my question: if you're paying $20 for a case of tomatoes, okay, you're expecting to use the whole entire case, right? And let's just say 30 tomatoes come in a case. All right, but you get a case like this, and let's just say 10 tomatoes are damaged. So what you are left with is 30 minus 10, you have 20 tomatoes. You should be getting 30 out of a $20 box, but in reality, you're getting 20 out of a $20 box. So the question to you is, would you pay for that? No, right? Because it's not fair. And you shouldn't be paying 10 tomatoes less. You should be getting the 30 that you deserve because you paid for it. So that's another reason why, not only because of quality, but also monetarily, you want to make sure that your business isn't going down just because you're accepting bad food. And lastly, you want to make sure that we are looking at the product itself for the quality of the product. So the box might look good, right? The packaging might look great, but you open the box, and let's just say you were getting a cheesecake, okay? You get a nice box right here, the label, everything looks good, but somewhere down the road, there was some sort of temperature abuse, or I don't know, maybe something happened, and you look in here and your cheesecake is just dying, okay? Would you accept that? Probably not, okay? Moldy, it doesn't smell good, it can happen. Because sometimes it's just rotated wrong, the expiration date was written on it incorrectly, and you just don't know what could have happened. But at the end of the day, it's wrong. So anytime that any of these three were abused and you're not getting the quality product that you had purchased, that you expect, even at the store, do not buy it, okay? You just go ahead and tell that truck driver that you are not accepting it, and the way that food vendors work is that they say, okay, here is, this is the packing slip, you have your tomatoes on there, let's just go back to that tomato analogy, and you say, I don't want to accept this case, I want another case, another truck. He says, okay, so he's going to show you, he's going to mark off that tomato from his either handheld device or on the package slip. We're both going to sign saying, hey, we accept that I'm returning the tomatoes. He puts it right back onto the truck, and we talk to the food representative for either a credit or they send me another case. Only exceptions, as I had mentioned earlier, is 3 items. You have shellfish, you have eggs, and you have milk, okay? And the exceptions on these are the temperatures, okay? Like I said, cold should be 41 degrees or lower, but in shellfish, eggs, and milk or other dairy products, the exception on that anywhere from 41 to 45 degrees. The big thing with that is as soon as you receive it though, they make sure that you drop it down, put it in the refrigerator properly, and it goes down to 41 degrees or lower. Also, shellfish, as far as packaging goes, has a specific label tags that it comes with, okay? If you remember, when we were talking about the big 6 diseases, that the foodborne illnesses that can happen in the food industry, one of the big ones was norovirus, and norovirus really gets affected by shellfish and improper handling of that. We want to make sure that you're always buying seafood from a reputable source, okay, purchasing from an approved vendor, and you want to make sure that it has tags, okay? These tags are going to tell you when it was caught, when they got it out of the sea, and when it was packaged and delivered, okay? All those dates are very important because shellfish has a shelf life. You don't want to keep things forever in the fridge because eating bad shellfish will make you sick, okay? Now these tags that you receive, it should be on the boxes, it should be on the fish or the shellfish itself, or on the bags, and you should keep those in a file for 90 days. Somebody does say that they got sick from your shellfish or from eating at your restaurant because of these foods, you have proof with these tags that you had sold it, you have done it in those correctly, and you don't get as hurt, okay? Eggs and milk as well should have a USDA stamp on them. It should say USDA, and then it'll be a big A for a gray. It looks like a shield. What kind of quality the eggs are. So there's a grade A, grade B, and with milk, what you should have is the word pasteurized. Pasteurized, it means that the milk has gone through a process where it kills any bacteria that's inside the milk, and so it's like this heating in this kettle that goes through heating hot water coils, and so then the milk rises to this certain temperature without spoiling, and gets you the milk that is safe to drink. Okay. If you've had the joy of drinking milk straight from a cow before, that's great. But you got to imagine that when you're mass producing milk, you can't go straight from a cow to the store without pasteurizing it, because there's just so many people handling it, so much time passing from the cow to the store and to your house. And so the pasteurization allows that to be the safest possible.